Oh my god, the red dot's on.
Okay. Are we centered?
Always.
Okay.
We're good.
Hi! It's been a while.
Yeah, like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But we've been busy.
Hustling. With heart.
And mine.
And soul.
Oh,
I had to add that piece into it.
welcome to episode number 5.
I had to look at your hands.
I didn't know. I'm watching what this
Full
guy's doing.
hand.
Full. Yeah. Today's topic. We're gonna be doing a little bit of a dive into breakups.
Dun dun dun! Not funny. It's not funny going through those.
No, but it's a roller coaster ride. Yeah, I guess so. Fire and explosions.
Yeah. All right.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you can get started.
Want me to do it? Okay,
Just
so
do it.
we obviously picked these topics up as we are, getting ready to set up the camera because that's how we roll.
We're supposed to shower together, but
Everything's off the cuff, off the top of the noggin. So,
I didn't get it on time.
no, you took too long. Missed out. So I wanted to kind of dive into the, not I guess necessarily the process, but just kind of have a little bit of a talk about what to do, how things are feeling, some good and some bad, how to transition. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I get you, babe.
Yeah.
I got you,
Biggest
babe.
break in the world.
It's good to pause when we speak. That's something I'm learning to do. Because I'm
And
it
then do
doesn't
the
stop. Does that make sense? Do you get it? All right.
So
The
we're,
one-
we're not breaking up.
No, imagine that. I'm kidding.
But yeah, and we're done. 5 videos in. That's it. Cut the tie. That's 2. Peace out. Opposite directions. No. This is just more so. We want to talk about everything, relationship and love and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's one of those components, and I think it's one of the important components, especially. It's a critical time for a lot of people when they don't even really, well, they do. They make a lot of conscious decisions, but it's almost like self-care takes over. And a lot of the times people just forget that that's how it should be most of the time. Right?
That's what happened to me. Took care of myself. So yeah.
So it's like you always see the, the classical breakup, and one person, well, I mean, we'll just say that for this example, one person doesn't do very good and the other person does a lot better with the breakup. The person who does a lot better is probably going to end up eating better and doing things they normally didn't do, maybe going out and doing different things, or trying the gym or different practices, or hanging out with friends and family. And then they really start to change themselves because they've involved themselves in a lot of the things that they've been wanting to do, but haven't actually put the time and the effort into getting themselves there, right? They lost their identity in that relationship. So it's always a lot of time, effort, and energy to figure out who you are apart from that individual, especially when it's split. Because you're also dealing with the emotions of the attachment to that person, and everything
Memories,
else that
the
comes
family.
along. It's like, it's not that it was always a bad ride, right? There's always good memories and bad memories, but I think the number one important step that I've learned in my own relationships is to do a introspection and look inside and see, did I really do X, Y, and Z right? Did I communicate? Was I there? Was there times where I could have been there more? And really critically analyzing yourself more than the other person, because you will probably never get the answer that you want from the other individual, and it's just a lot of wasted energy. So you might as well just put that into yourself and grow and move forward and become the person that you want, because that's going to put you in the same vibrational state as someone else that you want to attract, right? If you are not feeling worthy, if you're not feeling loved, if you're not feeling good enough, you're going to find people that feel the exact same way, because you're going to be comfortable with that feeling. So elevating yourself to the level that you want to. Obviously this takes time. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of tears, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of love, it's a lot of gentleness, especially when looking at yourself. Go ahead. I feel like you want to speak now.
No, I'm just taking you in.
Oh, okay.
Keep going, Mr. Hot Stuff.
So yeah, I think step one from the breakup is, take your time, take a deep breath, and sit down and, give yourself a test, score yourself. You know what I mean? Think of how good you did as an individual, regardless of what the other person did. It doesn't really matter. Because dwelling on that's not going to get you any farther, really. And it's not necessarily about them, right? I mean, like, the only person that you can really change is yourself. And that way you find things that you were lacking in and things that you did really well. And you can bring that to the next relationship, to the next person that you end up meeting, or whatever that may be. And then you can build on that, and you have that in the back of your head, right? You've been working on that for a while, you've been thinking about it, it's been conscious, it's now part of your subconscious. And then it's some of those things where it's like, yeah, I didn't communicate very well. You will communicate better in your next relationship if you identify that was something that you could make ground in a positive way. The floor is yours, beautiful.
Baby, I could listen to you all day.
Welcome to my podcast, where it's the real Canadian show. We chuck wood and drink maple syrup on it.
Wait, we got these. I got these for us. Remember? It says, and so the adventure begins with a little, one of those, what are those called? Not Winnebagels, but like the ones that you
A
said,
Winnebagle? A Winnebagle?
Ooh, I like a bagel cream cheese right now. No,
well,
like
that
those.
just looks like a car with a canoe on the top of it.
Yeah, but you know those cars
Like
that have like the
station
wood
wagon.
panel?
Yeah.
Yeah, station wagon. Me and my
Yeah,
brother
we
used
used
to
to
like
have one of
punch
those.
each other, like.
Yeah, my parents used
Oh,
to
yeah.
have a blue one. I think it was amazing. when
Oh
we were
yeah.
kids.
Yeah, we used to like those games that you play when you go on a trip or whatever. Yeah, we used to punch each other. But he would like get me right. Like he wouldn't punch hard, but he knows what would get me in the spot with his knuckle. Anyways, that aside, yeah. How do I lead from that space? He's absolutely right in the sense where, from my experience, it was hard not to blame the other person for who I became. And this is where like the bitterness and the anger, you might get resentment come in, that, a victim state, a fear state, you're wanting to like project and saying that it's the other person's fault. And when you take responsibility for yourself, because like Taylor mentioned, you can't change somebody else, right? But you will take yourself to the next relationship. So if you don't assess these things and you don't take time to go inside of yourself and evaluate yourself and make those changes, then you're going to bring yourself, the same person that you were, to the next relationship. And then what's going to happen, Abraham Hicks talks about this, but it's just different, same experience, but different face and different place, right? Because you always bring you with you.
It's that common cycle of like, oh, I always seem to find the bad guy. I always date bad boys, or like guys that aren't right for me, or girls that are, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The pattern repeats itself because you follow the same pattern. Right?
And you're strong enough to break that pattern. And a lot of the coaching sessions that I do, a lot of hard things come up. And one would be, for example, that you might have been, maybe this is something conditioned in your mind that you've seen since you were a child from your own parents or from your grandparents. And I always say that you are the one who's strong enough to break the cycle. Because if you don't break the cycle and you end up having kids, then they're going to be responsible for that cycle. So if you're not doing it for you, and you might not have kids, right? But just think of, if you do have kids, this could be a good, reason that was mine. What was my reason?
Even
but
if you don't,
just
right? You want
change.
to live in a positive environment.
Well,
so
yeah.
you want to do the things that make you happy and that fuel your soul, but also surround yourself and create an environment that you and the people that you are in thrive.
Yeah, 100%. And then you change the consciousness of the planet too, right? So anything that you change about yourself, it's a ripple effect. And the more that I've committed to my inner work, because we're bringing it back, as much as we're talking about breakups, we're always bringing it back to you, right? Center yourself. The more you change yourself, the more that you actually influence other people around you, right? Your family, your friends, your environment. You help lift them up and become better by simply being that walking example for yourself. But to do this, I think the number one thing for myself would be self-care. And self-care looks different and feels different to everyone, right? What would be the number one tool for you? Because you mentioned self-care earlier.
I think that's a great tool, but I also think applying a certain level of gentleness to yourself when you're criticizing what you can and can't do. A lot of us are our own worst enemies, so
hence me this morning.
kind of understanding that we're all human, we make mistakes, and yet sometimes you just have to go through the shit to learn it. And unfortunately some people are very stubborn and they have to do that with their head down and just plow through it and make a mess, and others do it in different ways. But I think the whole point of that is to just to understand if you were gonna it's a really funny thing, because I think the best example I have is like you would never talk to yourself with your own self, like your negative self-talk, the same way that you would talk to your children.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
But yet we always allow that to, and like not even just your children, but just anybody else that you respect, really, right? Like you would never be as critical as you are to others a lot of the time as you are to yourself. And I think that that's just another little added piece of advice on top of the self-care, because that obviously looks different for everybody. And just me seeing Celine's self-care over the last 8 months or whatever has been different every day, really. Like it's always it's trying to find what you're lacking and what's going to make you happy, and to create balance so that you feel that you're still moving forward, and not every day is going to feel that way. So it's understanding that you have to take time to relax. And the best thing you can do is just continue to grow yourself as an individual and have that as the forefront of who you are all the time. And if you believe in that person and you trust that you will be that person eventually, if you continue working to that, then you're not going to shift so much when you meet that next person. You're going to have your identity, you're going to be who you are, and they're going to love you for exactly that. And that's where it's going to be the easiest in the world, because you're just who you are and who you want to be. And on top of that, the other person sees exactly what that is. And it's a lot easier. I think that's why we work so well together, though. Right? Brownie points.
And the fact that you said the gentleness is really important. The fact that it's not the thought that makes us feel a certain emotion, it's the judgment behind the thought, right? So the number one tool, I think, when Taylor talks about being gentle with yourself, if you can just literally just pay attention, right? Pay attention to what thoughts you are thinking. That is almost going to break the cycle, right? So think of like a hamster on a hamster wheel. You've been conditioned for how many years to talk to yourself in a certain way, whatever it may be. So you need to find a way to kind of put that stick in the hamster wheel so you can become aware of what thoughts you're thinking to yourself and what thoughts you're thinking about other people as well, right? So it's that judgment piece. But the worst thing is that we get caught up in everything is when we judge the thought that we're having. So we might be feeling angry towards maybe our ex or whatever it may be, right? In the situation we're talking about breakup. So maybe super angry about that. But then you actually noticing the thought will actually sometimes make you feel even worse if you, how do I explain this? If you judge yourself through that process, right? So that's for my own personal experience. I'm not sure if you experience this, but like if you have certain thoughts about something and then you start observing them, it's almost like you can get stuck in this whirlwind of like negativity and then start judging yourself for feeling that certain way. So there's a bunch of different levels to this, but I just wanted to say pay attention to your thoughts first, and then afterwards see if you're judging that thought. I think is like the simplest way I can explain that. Do you want to jump in and maybe
I think
help me explain that a little bit
think
more?
To simplify a little bit would be that when you get to the point where you, like, obviously the first thing is realizing you have those thoughts, and I think another thing I wanted to add on top of that is to change the words that you use for yourself. Right? So if you continually call yourself stupid or dumb, or you think of yourself as not equipped, literally changing the words to the exact opposite will do you complete wonders, as long as you believe in that stuff and you do the work and apply it. But,
I want to say something about that after.
Yeah.
So just remember,
But to kind of clarify what she was talking about before was just when you get to the point of understanding those thoughts and they're not necessarily the ones that you would like to have, or they don't respond, they're not the way that you want to respond to the situation, don't beat yourself up for not doing it the proper way, right? The next sort of step is of noticing those things is to understand that you can change those as well. And that's where I really mean to be gentle with yourself, and that you can really go down a rabbit hole just beating yourself up over all the things that you didn't do based on your own perception, when a lot of the time that's not what reality actually is. And you wanted to jump on.
Yeah, and how do we change those thoughts? That was beautifully said, by the way. Thanks for simplifying that for me. Or for our viewers. Masterpiece.
Oui.
How do you shift those thoughts? So if, for example, if I say, I'll just give you an example. I hate myself. And then you catch yourself saying, I hate myself. And then you say, okay, and then you try to switch it and say, I love myself. A lot of times it's too big of a gap in order for us to jump. It's like quantum leaps, right? So instead, go super general and make sure that it's something that you kind of believe. That'll help bridge the gap. It's like climbing up a ladder and trying to take like the 10th step when you're on the first step. It's really, really hard. A lot of times you'll like bail and you'll give up. So the number one advice that I could give through my own experience would be, let's say you say, I hate myself. You can say, okay, I hate myself in this moment, but I know I've done some pretty cool things in my life that doesn't make me hate myself. I've done some really nice things to certain people. I just don't know what yet. So that's an example of the language that you can use to help you bridge that gap. So we can't tell you what that is. That's when intuition comes in, and that's more of an inner beauty talk. But your intuition will kind of guide you and tell you what you need in the moment. But it's very, very different. Like Taylor was saying, self-care is different from him to me to you. So it's almost like a trial and error system, right? So you got to figure it out for yourself. But know that there is a possibility. Just pay attention, and you'll see when we try to heal from a breakup, it's gonna take some time, like Taylor mentioned, and the more that you commit to your own growth, the more you're gonna find a partner who's committed to their growth. And Dr. Shivali talks about this, is like the number one thing is growth in any relationship. As long as two people are committed to that growth, then you'll see it continuously blooming and rising and thriving, right? Doesn't mean we don't have challenges, but we just work through those challenges differently. Like Taylor triggers me in certain ways for my past experiences to be healed and transcended in this moment, but I wasn't aware, or I wasn't strong enough to deal with it back then, and then I would beat myself up over it, and then Taylor would help, with communication and soothing tools, where he's like, but you didn't know any better back then, right? Now, and now I'm able to kind of have, it's almost like giving yourself that second chance. Like Taylor's mentioning, you see a kid trying to walk for the first time and he falls, you're not gonna, call the kid stupid and tell him to get up. You're gonna be super gentle. You're gonna give them your hand, help them up, rub their back, and say, it's all right, let's do that again, right? Let's try again.
I think the analogy for that is when you're taking these first steps in your self-care, especially after a breakup, when you're vulnerable and all that, focus on yourself and treat yourself like you would a child.
Yeah.
In the same tenderness, the same calm, the same way that you needed to be treated, probably. Like that.
Yeah, and when you're feeling angry, feel angry. When a child, they get so angry, but then like 5 minutes later, it's like nothing happens because they felt their anger. You don't have to punch somebody, but like do it in a safe manner, right? Like I used to scream in a pillow or in my car at the top of my lungs. People probably thought it was crazy, but it works. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I just had a vision of that. I was like, they need to know not just calm, but like anger is really important. It's a stepping stone to forgiveness.
All your emotions, but understanding where they come from and
Yeah.
how they, you know, what triggers them and what is valid and what isn't, right? If you were freaking out over something really small, that emotion does not directly tie to that, you know, small little thing that might have set you off, right? Like they don't equate, doesn't make sense. So it's just kind of understanding, okay, no, I need to take a step back, I need to breathe, or there's sometimes where you just really need to let it out and you've just been holding it in. Like, find ways to do so that's really calm, right? If you need to go to, as Dwight would call jujitsu, kung fu, do things like sports. That's why any sort of physical activity is really good, because it just releases a lot of those emotions for you. But
and even too, I find nature helps ground you, you know, spending time in nature, and then it helps you like become self-aware and in the moment.
Which doesn't help in the sort of weather we have currently, even though today was beautiful.
Yeah, but you can dress up, you know, dress up. Put your parka on when it's like January. When it's 30 or 40.
Go outside. This is self-care, guys. It's minus 40. He told me just to go for a walk in nature. Oh, freezing. Well, I think we're going to leave it on a lighter note.
Yeah. That was good.
So it's a little bit of a darker thing to think about, but we're gonna have way more videos, more content. We're gonna talk about probably the same shit in a year from now, but with different perspectives. It's always gonna change. It's always gonna grow, right? Everything's different. You always continually learn more about yourself when you learn more about everything around you, and you pursue the goals and the dreams that make you happy. At the end of the day, like, that's pretty much what it comes down to, right? If you're not doing that stuff, you're going to be depressed, you're going to feel like you're falling behind, like things aren't going very well, and you're not living to your full potential. So
yeah, I think that's the number one thing, is living up to that fullest potential. And when we know our potential, but then we sink back into this like little cocoon, or like like a turtle climbs back into their home and their safety net.
Whole other video topic right there we can talk about.
Oh, for sure. And another there's other topics too. I'll talk to you about after. I don't have to mention it on the video.
All right, everybody.
Wait, one more thing.
You got something to say? Sorry, I was gonna cheers, do a cool outro.
Hold on.
Okay, go.
Oh yeah, living up to your fullest potential, right? Forgot what I was gonna say there now. Give me a second.
Okay, bye. Just kidding.
Boo! Okay, fine. Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to talk about.
We'll just save that for the next one.
Okay.
We want to see more of you, and you want to see more of us. Right? You tell me right now you love me.
I love you.
Okay, I love you too. We'll both go for the same side. And we're gone.
Nose bump. Oh, maybe it's our French nose.